Hey everyone, thank you for joining today. My name is Nate, and today we're going to learn how to tie-dye. The first thing that you're going to need to do is wash the shirt in the washing machine. Just wash it on the regular cycle with regular detergent, and that's all that you have to do with this before we get this started. So we're going to have to soak this in soda ash as well. But first thing you're going to need to do is wash that in the washing machine. Don't worry about drying it. All right, so we've got soda ash right here. I've just got the local brand that I got at the store, just some Arm & Hammer. What's important about this is on the ingredients. So you're looking for sodium carbonate. That's the only thing that's in this. And so this is, you can get this. There's also pH up in the pool section at some stores. And then if you just want to actually buy sodium carbonate online, that's what you're going for. So the ratio for this to water is 1 cup of this to 1 gallon of water. So this bucket right here, I have a gallon of water in here. I've got my 1 cup here. And actually I'm going to tear. It's easier when that tab is not there. So we're just going to put 1 cup of this into the water right here. And then stir that up really well. So it's going to get real cloudy, and then it's going to clear up. Once it clears up, that's when you know that it's going to be ready. And so I have this right here because I run a whole lot of shirts. I have this machine. It's a washing machine. I don't actually wash anything in it. I just do my prep in this. So on the left side here is water and soda ash. And then on the right side here is the spin cycle. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and pour this in here. Okay. And the way that I mix this, it's a lot easier. So all I do is just run this, let it run for a few minutes, and then it mixes on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and let that sit and run. Okay. So now that is all mixed, we're ready to put a shirt in here. So put your shirt in. Make sure it's completely covered. I do wear gloves typically at this point. I don't want the soda ash on my hands. So if you're going to be sticking your hand in there, put gloves on at this point. But you're going to let that sit for about 15 minutes. And then in 15 minutes, we're going to pull it out and spin it out. So the dye that we're going to be using is called Procion Dye. It's also known as fiber reactive dye. And so I have 3 different companies here. We have Jacquard products. And you can see right here where it says Procion MX dye. So this is the orange that I'm going to be using. And then we have Dharma right here. It's lemon yellow. You can see right here it says fiber reactive dye. And then right here I have Grateful dyes. And it says Premium MX fiber reactive dye. So all of these are the same type of dye. These are just the three of the top brands. There's other brands too that have dye that is just as good as these. I just wanted to show you at least these 3 to choose from if you're trying to figure out what dyes to use. So if you're getting from here, you're going to need to buy a few because shipping is a bit. Their shipping. This is the company that I use most. Grateful dyes, so their shipping is pretty decent. And then Jacquard products, if you're just needing 1 or 2 colors, you can actually get these on Amazon. And so if I don't want to make like a whole order, I'll just go ahead and get a color off of Amazon just to kind of help me through until I make the next order, because I go through a lot and sometimes I will definitely run out of a color before I'm ready to use it. So we're going to mix all these in different ways. There's a few different ways that you can mix colors. Most of you probably aren't going to have some of the tools I have, so I'm going to show you the traditional way to mix. We'll go ahead and use that with the yellow right here. So for the traditional way to mix, you're just going to take your bottle. This is about a 20-ounce bottle. I think it holds right around 20 ounces. And so for 20 ounces of water, you're going to want to put 5 teaspoons of dye. And so I'm actually going to be using this yellow right here. I'm using, this is Grateful Dye's yellow. I just had some with me. This was actually one of the other dyers here's dye. I just wanted to show you the different companies that we have, and I'm actually using my dye for this. So in here we just have Grateful Dye's lemon yellow. So it's just a base yellow. And so I have tablespoons here because I use so much dye. And so this has a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. And so we need 5 teaspoons worth. So I'm basically going to put 2 whole tablespoons in this. I do like to put a little bit extra. It'll give you a little bit deeper, more vibrant dyes. And so if you want those little bit more vibrant colors, you're more than welcome to add slightly more. And so you can see, let's see. So we're just going to dump those in kind of slow. I'll do this first one, and then I'll adjust the camera for you so you can see me dumping it in there. There we go. I think that'll be okay for the second one. All right, and so for my second, this thing holds right about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons, I think. I forgot how much these little containers I have. They're my emergency containers in case I forget something. That way I don't have to carry big containers of dye with me everywhere I go whenever I need to make dye. Because right there is just enough to make whatever I need to make. Yeah, so you want to dump it in kind of slow. See how it's not all quite in there? You don't want it to clump up as it goes in, because it'll get a little bit tougher. So just kind of shake it till it goes in. You see how it's all cleared in there now. So we're going to put water in here. We're not going to fill it though. So you only want to put about halfway with water. If you fill it all the way, it's going to be a little tough to shake it. So by filling it halfway, you can go a little more than halfway. You just need to leave room. Make sure that there's room for it to shake. Move this over. And so all you're going to do, put your cap on, make sure you're plugged really well, and make sure you have a good bottle too. Some bottles will leak, so if you have a leaky bottle, be sure not to spill, and you're just going to shake it up. This could take quite a few minutes, so I'm just going to partially shake this up. Whoops. So you don't knock things over. Pay attention to what you're doing. And you're just going to keep on shaking this until eventually all the sediment here at the bottom is gone. The warmer water will help this. So if you want to use warm water, it'll help dissolve it better. Cold water will take a little bit longer. And you can even shake for a couple minutes. Shake for 30 seconds or so, like to a minute. And then let it sit. And it'll dissolve some in there and then come back to it and shake some more later. So we're going to go ahead and top this off here. I'm going to leave a little bit so I can still kind of shake it. All right. So there's our yellow, and that is mixed in the traditional way. If you do not have any kind of tools or anything like that. So right there is our yellow. Now for these other two colors, what we'll do here is, this is a magnetic stirrer. So I got this on Amazon, pretty cheap. I think I spent $15, $20 on it. I don't know, somewhere around there. Had it for a while. As you can see, there's stuff all over, but it has let's see. If you look down in there, there's a magnet right there in the bottom. Looks like a pill. And that magnet is going to spin when I turn this on. So you can see it starts to create that tornado that's in there. So that'll mix for us, and that can get kind of loud too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some turquoise right here. Actually, I'm going to do we'll go with the orange for this one. I kind of like to go in. So with this not being fully clean, I should clean it all the time. I don't always clean it after each use and I go in order of the rainbow, sort of. So like yellow and orange, they can mix. The yellow is not going to do anything to the orange, but if you were to put like orange and yellow, then you might actually get an orangish yellow, so you'll need to be careful of something like that. So we're going to go ahead and turn this on a low speed just to get it moving. We don't want it to quite break and be super loud. So you can see that our tornado going in there. So we're going to get 2 tablespoons. And I tap it slow. You don't want to dump this real quick. Dumping too quick will make it clump up, and you may not have all your dye dissolve. So you want all of this to dissolve. So you just put a little bit in there at a time, and you can speed this up too. I don't want to get it going too fast, otherwise it will definitely get loud, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear me over it. Yeah. So we'll just keep it spinning at that speed, and we'll put our 2nd tablespoon in here. Yeah, so I'm basically putting 6 teaspoons in these with the amount of water I'm using, and with these dyes, the typical amount is 5 teaspoons for that amount of water. So 1 teaspoon for every 4 ounces. So if you have 1 cup of water, then you're going to need 2. So it's just a bunch of math. Just figure out 1 teaspoon per 4 ounces of water. That's just the basic. And then some colors are more. And if you want lighter colors, you can use less. Like say you want pastels. Pastels, you can get pastels by mixing 1 single teaspoon for this whole thing of dye, and you can create a pastel. So you can use a whole lot less dye if you're wanting to do pastels. So while this is mixing, we're just going to let that continue mixing, and I'm going to move it right over to the side here and be very careful. And then we're going to take this right here, which also has 20 ounces of water in here. I think it has 20. Yep. So 20 ounces of water. Now we're going to go over to our turquoise. And actually, before I do that, because I don't want to just drop that in there. So what I have here, this was a coffee stir for some mushroom coffee that I got from Everyday Dose. And this actually has worked great for stirring. So yeah, just put this in here, get that going. And then we're going to drop our 2 tablespoons in here. Let that mix up. This is going to be the fastest way of mixing right here. This definitely does a better job than everything else. It's the quickest. But you do have to sit here and hold it by hand. Or like the magnetic stir, you can see is just set it and forget it. You don't really have to, I don't know, you can just go do whatever. There's been times I've just left that mixing for an hour or longer. Just mixing for long. With this, it'll take a few minutes. So I'll sit here, kind of mix it up for a bit. It'll get a little bit foamy. You want to get all the way on the edges, make sure everything is mixed. If you use warm water, this will be much quicker too. So cold water does take a little bit longer. But you want to make sure this is good and mixed before you pour it into your bottle. All right. So I think with this one, we are probably going to be good. Actually, do a little spin out right there. And if you are not good at pouring, use a funnel. I've been doing this for a good while, and honestly, I can't remember when the last time was I actually used the funnel. I forgot I had it. I was just about to do this video, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a funnel. I should probably use that. It'll definitely help. So you want to fill your bottles. Be slow, be careful. It's possible that this doesn't quite hold all of this. So I think it's a 20-ounce bottle, but to be honest, I'm not exactly 100% sure on the total volume. Whoop, yep. So see, I went over. Whoopsies. So you'll want to be careful if you spill. Always keep paper towels around. And I like to work on a plastic surface. This dye does not work on plastic. So anything that I spill, just come through here. You'll smear it for a minute, but once you get it all cleaned up, I'll have to come back through here with a little bit of water. But all of this will come off once I hit it with the water. Okay. So we have a little bit of dye that we can just set aside. That means that all of my colors here are going to be a little bit over. So these might actually be 16-ounce bottles, but they hold a little more than 16. Okay. Now our orange should be good. Make sure not to spill this one. So you can like look at the bottom. If you can see, if you see any chunks or anything, that'll need to keep mixing. But if nothing is there, you're good to pour. This one I actually see in the bottle. Some of the colors you can see, other colors over time, the bottles start to get stained. I should wash my bottles out more. That wouldn't happen if I did, but I just go through these so much and I use the same color in each one that I just keep putting it in and putting it in until eventually I kind of forced to clean out my bottles. All right, so see at the top, and we got a little bit left there. So we'll have a little bit extras of these colors. So once your shirt is soaked for about 15 minutes or so, you're going to want to wring it out. So what I'll do is, this is too wet to dye, and we need to get rid of most of this moisture. So I'm going to put it right over here. And if your washing machine has a spin only cycle, you can do this in the washing machine. That's why I have this. This is a spin dryer. So I'll soak in this side, And then over here, there we go. It doesn't always balance right away, but this is going to, sorry. So this is going to spin out the excess water. And I've got a bucket right down here where it spits out the excess water. And so this runs, I put it on about 4 minutes. This one is pretty powerful. The one that's at the house, I have to run for about 13 minutes, which is the max on it, for it to get spun out enough. And so the goal is you want the shirt to be mostly dry. The drier it is, the better, but you don't want it to be super dry. So if you don't have this, squeeze it out, get as much water as you can, and then let it hang out somewhere and get mostly dry. And then once it's just slightly damp, like just barely, you don't even really want it wet, but just barely wet, once it's like that, then it's going to be ready to tie. So it's just finished spinning it out. I'll take this out. Yeah, so now we just have a damp shirt. It's still slightly more wet than what I would like, but as we sit and tie it, it's going to dry out a little bit more. All right, so we're going to want to take the shirt and turn it inside out first. And the reason I turn it inside out is there's a few different reasons, but one of the main reasons is if any dye, any stray dye gets on this, it's easier to hide when it's on the inside of the shirt. Sometimes a shirt will just get a real small speck of it on it and you'll see it, but then when you turn it over to the other side, you won't see it at all. So by doing the shirt inside out like this, it tends to hide some of those mistakes sometimes. So I usually turn my shirt inside out. And then you're going to want to flatten it completely and take out all of your wrinkles. So you want it level from side to side. That way, this side, or so when it's completely flat, you end up getting a smooth canvas. Basically, if you have any wrinkles in here, it's going to mess up your pattern a little bit. So depending on what kind of pattern you're trying to do, you're going to want this completely flat. You're going to want it even and level from side to side so that the middle of the shirt is actually straight up and down the middle and not off to the side, because there are some patterns where we will fold in the middle, and if we don't have it lined up correct, once we open it, our pattern is not going to be mirrored from side to side, and you're going to see all of those mistakes. So it really just depends on what you're trying to tie. There are lots and lots of different patterns, but really it's just what you're wanting to do. So if you're wanting to follow along and do what I'm about to do here, you're more than welcome to. I do have a whole bunch of other videos that have a whole bunch of other patterns. So if you want to do one of those, go ahead and watch one of my other videos and it'll explain how to do the pattern. And then if you want to come back to this, at the end of this video, I am also going to explain how to wash this too. So it's up to you if you want to continue watching how I do this shirt, or if you want to go and watch one of my other videos. All right, so for this one, what I'm going to end up doing is combining two different types of styles. So we're going to do a pleat and we're going to do a scrunch. And so we're going to fold this shirt in half first. So I'm going to turn it to the side and bring this side over to here. Make sure you're level and even all the way around. So check all your seams. If you do not do this, your shirt will not be level from side to side and you will see it. So this is, while this is simple and tedious, This is one of the most important steps if you're wanting a good looking design. Every step technically is pretty important because everything that you mess up down the line will eventually show itself towards the end. So you want to be kind of careful. It just really depends on what you're doing, because like some patterns, you know, you can't really mess up. If you're doing a scrunch, just whatever, you're doing a scrunch. But if you're trying to get something specific, then you need to make sure that all of the steps along the way are done properly. Okay, so now we've got everything is level here. So now I'm going to do a pleat. So we're going to pleat from bottom to top, and I'm going to make about a 1-inch pleat here, and I'm just going to pinch all the way up. Now, I do have a video called "What is a Pleat?" and I dye the Ultra Color palette, and it is me folding just like this. I do have different angles than this. I have an angle looking at it from the side so that you can see how the folds look. So if you want to see another angle of how to do this, check out my video, What is a Pleat? It is the Ultra Color palette. All right, so yeah, we're just going to keep on folding up, and then I guess I don't really have to take it all the way over to the edge here, because I am not going to continue. So this pattern is going to get broken up over here. So right here is the middle of the shirt, and this is like the spine area and the center of the chest. So we're going to take some rubber bands. Grab some rubber bands over here real quick. I got this big old bag of rubber bands. It will never run out. Actually, it will run out eventually, but it'll be a while. So what I do usually when I'm putting rubber bands on is I fold the rubber band in half. I stick my forefingers through here and then my thumb just to kind of open this up and spread it out. And then I drag on the table to get underneath the shirt. That way I can get past it a little bit without messing up the pattern too much, because it is very easy to mess up this pattern if you're not careful. All right, so I'm gonna put, is that all I want? Yeah, I think that's as wide as I want that one. So I'm actually going to pull this one tight right here, just a little bit tighter. So this is going to be our spine pattern. Now I'm going to mess up the rest of this. So we're going to open this back up, and then we're going to do a scrunch. And so to make sure that we get the pattern broken up, I'm going to start down here by the rubber bands, and I'm going to make some scrunches. I have a video, what is a scrunch, and I go over how to make the Rorschach scrunch, which is basically what this outside pattern is right here. So if you want to see that video, look up my video, what is a scrunch, and that'll go over how I'm doing this pattern right here. And that is dyed in the Ultra Color palette as well. So I've got this all folded. Now we're going to take rubber bands and slide those on. This I'm going to kind of make like a grid. So I need pressure going in this way, and then I'm going to need pressure going in this way. So actually we're going to turn this again. So make pressure go like this. And from this corner over here, I'm going to bring it and cross over to down here. And then I'm going to do the same over here. And that's going to get the corners in right here. So we can actually probably bring those over a little bit more. So I'm going to take those all the way to this edge. And then we're going to do something very similar again. From the corner to here. and from this corner down here up to here. That way it pushes this in this way. We want to get tension all the way around. That way it's mostly tight. There are other forms of tying that you can get tighter with this, but we're just going to be using rubber bands and get through the basics here. So now that we're tied, we are ready to dye. So we're just going to go with our regular color spread right here. So we got fuchsia, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and black. And these are the colors that I pretty much use on everything. And if I want to make any custom colors, I will just mix these colors to get what I want. So to dye this, to separate these two patterns, we're going to take some black first here, and we're going to put it just on one side of this rubber band. So I'm going to put it on this outside here. And this is going to separate the spine pattern from the rest of the pattern. So we're only going to do one side at the moment. For here, I'm just going to pick 3 colors for one side. Once we flip it over, there's going to get 3 colors on the other side. But for here, we're just going to start with some fuchsia. We want it, whoops, looks like I gotta, needs to be shaken up a bit. Sometimes when the colors sit, they get a little thick and they get like a booger-like consistency in there. Yeah, because that was just a nice little booger that came out. And sometimes I'll thicken my dyes, and the thickener will thicken a little too much, and it'll all combine with each other, and it'll coagulate, and we'll just have a nice little mess of stuff that we don't want to work with. And so I don't always thicken my dyes. You don't have to. Just like this orange right here that we just mixed, this was not thickened, and it's going to work just fine. Just the thickened dyes are really only for some of the high-end patterns and stuff, things where you don't want the dye to move, because while it's still in this form where it's just water and dye, it's going to move around a little bit. Won't move around a lot, but with it not being thick, it will travel some, and so some of the colors will blend into each other, and you might get a little bit of bleed, but not too much. So I find it that I don't actually need to thicken most of my colors, but my black is always thickened. I will always thicken my black, because that one I don't want to spread as much. And if it's not thickened, it will actually lighten a little bit and be almost a little bit gray. And I don't want that to happen. Okay, so for here, we're going to do, let's see, should we just do the opposite colors? Yeah, we'll just do that. We're going to keep it simple. So first we had those 3. Now we're going to do these 3. I'm going to start with the purple. And this whole first section right here is going to be purple. And I'm only putting enough dye on to go halfway through. So I'm going to flip this over and dye the other side. So I don't want the dye to quite go all the way through. Yeah, you can dye this side all. You can one color if you want and flip it over, dye it the same on the other side. You can do it different on the other side. There's just so many different ways to add color that it's just, there aren't really any rules. But if you don't want brown, so you see how I've got the colors in the rainbow next to each other. So when these 2 colors mix, they're going to make like a salmon color in between. When these 2 colors mix, they're going to be like a golden orange in between. When these 2 colors mix, there's going to be like a lime green that's in the middle. When blue and green mix, there's kind of a turquoise that's in the middle. And then when the blue and purple mix, there's like an indigo that's in the middle. But then say you were to put some yellow next to some purple, when those 2 colors touch, they will make brown. So if you don't want any brown, just be careful with your color choice. The way that I'm going to be doing this is once I flip this over and dye the other side, I'm actually going to be putting contrasting colors going against each other. So I have a very high chance of getting brown. So I'm going to be very careful to not add too much dye so that this side does not blend with the other side. And we end up having a much variety of color in this. Okay. So now that that has color, I'm going to do something that I know scares so many people. Whenever I do lessons, everyone's like, what? You're going to do what? And I'm going to take some black and we're going to cover the whole thing. I'm not going to put a whole lot, just enough to cover it on the outside, just a little light layer, a whole lot less dye than the other colors. And I don't quite want to touch this black here. And same with over here. So we're just a little bit on the edges, work away around the edge, make sure I don't get over to this black here. And then we're going to make sure there's a little bit in here too. So just like that. Now we're going to flip this over and dye this other side. See how it's mostly white here, but there's a little bit of color that's coming through, and then you can see little bits of stained areas from touching this right here. It's one of the reasons why I like to put black over everything. It kind of hides some of that stuff. And all right, so now we flip this over. So we put dye here on the other side. I'm gonna put it on this side, and what that's going to do is the spine pattern that's going down the center is going to have a zipper like effect. And so it's going to have a little zigzag to it rather than just being a straight line down the center. Okay, so here, there's a couple different ways to do this. So I can make this wrap around in color where it goes fuchsia, orange, yellow, and then green, blue, purple. Or I can do the opposites. And I think I'm going to do the opposite. So with fuchsia here, the opposite of fuchsia is going to be this green. So I'm going to put a little bit of green. Careful not to put too much, because if the green goes all the way to that bottom and mixes with that fuchsia, it will turn brown. And we're trying not to get browns here. But what we're doing is contrast, lots of contrast. So we're doing opposites, complementary colors, mixing with each other and being on the opposite ends with each other. And we are going to make it super colorful without being brown, while being right on the edge of making brown. All right, so we're going to put blue right here in the middle. And then our last color will be purple. Just enough to make sure that it drips through. We want it to stop right before it reaches the other color, so that as it sits here, that little bit of sitting will make it reach the other color. But we want them to stop there. So if you put enough dye on to where you dye all the way to where it touches that other color, then as it sits, it'll bleed into that color a little bit. And I think I might have just had that happen right there. And we're going to get a little bit of brown. Not going to be a whole lot, be a little bit, and be okay. Not the end of the world. It is tie-dye here, so you know. That's the fun thing about this. This is done by hand. We're not machines. We are human. We are allowed to just go free with it. There's no mistakes. There's just us making tie-dye in the way that we want to make it. If you're trying to make it perfect, sure, there can be mistakes that'll keep it from being perfect. But hey, maybe that's what makes it perfect in the first place. What if perfect isn't actually perfect? And the imperfections within our dyes are what make it perfect. I'll let you think on that one. So we're just going to keep adding some of this. And we're going to move on to the next color. And we're just going to continue this gradient all the way out. So it's 3 colors in each section with the opposite 3 colors on the opposite side, and then the opposite colors from this side to this side with the opposite colors from that side to that side. I like to do opposition and contrast. One will bring out the other. And if you do too much, it gets a little bit muddy and brown. But if you do it just right, it'll pop out and be super bright, and you'll have an ultra colored shirt. Let's see. Make sure that's not too thick. I did shake it up earlier, but it still seems pretty thick. Fuchsia tends to thicken up after mixing. It is a slightly larger molecule from what I've been told, and so it tends to clump. It's also one of the first colors to dye. Once it touches something, it's almost dyed instantly, and it is the color that travels the least once you put it on. So it's going to stay pretty much where you put it. Okay, so now that we've got color all over everything, we're going to come back through and we're going to cover this whole thing in black. Don't be scared. You don't have to do this, but if you're following along and want it to be like mine, I suggest doing this. While we all have free will, you do not have to if you do not. So please express your free will and do this however you would like. Okay, so we are now going to let that sit for 24 hours, and we will wash that out tomorrow. Okay, so rinsing is easy. First thing we're going to do, fill this up with hot water. So depending on how many shirts you're going to be rinsing out is how much water you want here. This bucket holds 10 quarts of water, so I'm going to put about 1.5 gallons or so. Fill it about 2/3 of the way, and then I'm going to use some blue dish soap to put in there as well. So after we rinse our shirt, we're going to soak it in this for about 15 minutes. So we want to make sure that this is good and hot. Hottest water you can get pretty much out of your faucet is fine. Okay, so now we got enough in there, and I'm just going to put a little bit of soap. You don't need a whole lot, but enough to definitely make it suds up. Okay, so that's going to be good right there. Go ahead and move this out of the way. So I did wrap this in plastic as well as it batches. If you're not going to be getting to it right away, wrapping in plastic will help it keep from drying out. And if you also put this outside so that it will heat up and set the dye quicker, or if you're just wanting it to get hot and hopefully be more vibrant, it can dry out much quicker doing that. So putting it in the plastic can definitely help keep that from drying out. So rinsing, there's so many different ways people will tell you how to rinse. The goal here is to get the soda ash and the dye out. So most of the soda ash should be spent. Most of the dye should be spent, but sorry about that beeping if you can hear that. I'm here cooking at the same time behind me. I got the pressure cooking going. Okay, so rinsing. We're rinsing out the dye and the soda ash. Right now I have it on cold water. So some will say cold water first, some will say hot water first. I choose to use cold water first. And the reason for this is when you're rinsing with hot water, the hot water, soda ash, and dye, when they all mix together, can cause it to dye. Or so say it bleed, you get some dye that bleeds into a spot where you don't want it to be. If there's still soda ash there and you rinse it with hot water, it can dye that area. So like with hot water irrigation and stuff, we are using hot water when we rinse in order to set the dye. But if you've been letting this sit for a while and you just dyed it with your normal liquid dye methods, it's best to rinse this with cold water first, and then you can gradually move up to hot. But the reason why we rinse with hot water too is hot water is going to release more of the dye than cold water will. So you do want to use hot water, but cold water at the beginning if you want to make sure your colors do not bleed into any of the other colors. So we've been rinsing this a bit. We got quite a bit of the dye out, not all of it. So you can squeeze it. You may need to be careful if there's still quite a bit of dye left in there. Be careful with the squeezing because you can squeeze dye into a place where you don't want it to, and it can stain that spot or cause it to dye. So you'll just need to be careful with that. So then take your rubber bands off here. Try not to fling dye everywhere. And then you can save rubber bands if they're not too bad. Rubber bands go quite a few times, but they do lose their elasticity over time. So there's only quite a few uses. Okay, and then you get to take a look at your shirt and see how your pattern looks. So that was our pleat and then our scrunch here, and we had it folded in half. So completely unfold, and then I'm going to continue to rinse with cold water here. Just make sure to get all of it. And then once I hit everything with the cold water, then I'm going to move over to hot water. And like never rush the rinsing. Take your time. You can never rinse too much, but you can definitely rinse too little. So make sure you've got everything rinsed. You're going to see this start to turn mostly clear. It'll still have some color, but it shouldn't be nearly as deep and vibrant as it was when we first started. Okay, that's good with the cold water. So now I'm going to move over to the hot water. So we're rinsing with hot water now. And you're going to go over this really well. Do your best. Get all of it. Don't miss anything. Go back over different spots. Don't let anything sit for too long, because you can have dye bleed into areas and then it'll stain in there, and you're going to get some like muddied colors and browns. And we're not trying to get browns with this. With the way we dyed this, we have contrasting colors right next to each other throughout this entire shirt. And so this shirt has a huge potential for a lot of brown. So we're just going to make sure that we rinse really well. Get all of it out. You won't be able to rinse all of it out. You'll be able to get most of it out. So the goal is to get that water mostly clear. After you've been rinsing a little bit, be careful, this is going to be hot too, especially rinsing with water. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off. We're going to squeeze that out. Don't squeeze, don't twist too hard. You don't want to tear it. So be sure to squeeze more than twist. And then we're going to rinse one more time, just to make sure we get all of the dye out. Just one nice good rinse. Get all the sleeves. check all your seams. Extra dye likes to hide in the seams and any spot along the edge where it's like double the fabric. And once we are pretty good, I think we are good enough here. I'm satisfied with this. So what we're going to do is give this another squeeze. So you can still see quite a bit. The dye still came out. So if you want to keep rinsing, you can. I'm not too worried. I'm going to get most of that out during the machine wash. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick this in here and we're going to let that sit for at least 15 to 20 minutes. About 20 minutes, we're going to rinse out this extra soap water. You don't want to run that through the machine. Your washing machine will get messed up over time if you run a bunch of this through it. It suds up too much and the machines are not meant for it, so you need to rinse out your extra suds. Make sure you rinse it good. A little bit is okay, but for the most part you need to get most of this out. Just going to do a good rinse here. And then squeeze it. And if you put a whole lot of soapy water in your bucket, this could take a while. So that's why I say don't use too much. You want to make sure you use enough so that it works, but not so much that you're sitting here rinsing for 10 minutes for every shirt just because you use too much. So try to save yourself some time. And now at this point, now that you're good and rinsed, we're going to squeeze it out one more time. And then you are good to rinse this in the washing machine on a regular cycle with regular detergent. And then to dry, you can either hang dry if you want, or you can air dry, or you can put it in the dryer if you want. It's all up to you. It's just dependent on what the shirt itself does. So you can look at your tag. Whatever your tag says, that's how you can wash your shirt. So there's not really any special washing instructions to save the dye. It's just the material. This dye is now permanent. All right, so our shirt is now washed and dried. So we're going to go over this just a little bit. So as you can see right here down the center was where we did our pleated pattern. And then when we dyed it, we dyed different colors on each side. So you can see how it alternates between the colors on each side. So if we start here at the top where it's fuchsia, 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 starting to blend down into the orange and then down into the yellow. That was our top side or bottom side. I don't remember which side was which. And then the green, the blue, and the purple, that was the other side when we flipped it over and dyed it the other color. And then right here on the edge, you can see how the black zigzags like this. This was where we put the black on different sides of the rubber band whenever we flipped it over on each side of the shirt. And then outside we did our scrunch pattern. So you can see how we have our alternating colors in the scrunch that works its way out. So we've got blue, green. Actually, it looks like we went purple, blue, green, and then yellow, orange to fuchsia. So we'll flip this over. You can see the back side as well. So this is why it's important at the beginning, why I say to make sure all your wrinkles are out and why everything is folded smooth and flat. That way you have the same image on this side as you do on this side, and then the same image on the back side. as you do on the front side. So if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments. Click that like and subscribe button. My name is Nate. Thank you for watching.